Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. This is AutoVision News Radio at AutoSens at InCabin USA 2025 from the Huntington Place in downtown Detroit. We are speaking with Roger C. Lanctot, founder of StrategiaNow. Roger is a car connectivity consultant with over 30 years experience advising automakers and their suppliers on marketing and strategy. He is also the president of the Mobile Satellite Users Association. Roger, welcome to AutoSens and InCabin. Good to see you, friend.
Thank you, Carl.
What are some of the most significant trends that we're seeing right now when it comes to in-cabin sensing? What are your observations?
So the regulatory activity in Europe really is driving a lot of the adoption of sensors in the vehicle. Sure. Also getting a little bit of an assist on this side of the Atlantic from the alcohol impairment detection requirements. Sure. I think it was in the infrastructure or the Inflation Reduction Act, right. Whatever that legislation was. Apparently it has been preserved in the big beautiful bill. It's going to remain. And it's significant because that's a third of highway fatalities can be attributed to alcohol sure. Abuse and consumption and impairment. So, but in solving those problems, we've ended up creating a host of other solutions like facial authentication, iris detection, sure. Emotion detection. I think we've been talking now about emotion detection for several years at events like this. I don't think the automakers have quite figured out what to do with that information yet. Sure. Facial authentication is quite widespread and popular in China already. It hasn't quite made it here. I don't know why, but what you're going to have is a scenario where, well, actually between the regulatory activity around impairment and the onset of level 2+ automated driving, sure. driver monitoring is just becoming ubiquitous everywhere. And right. They're probably, most consumers aren't even aware that they're being monitored, basically, and most are being monitored in new cars for drowsiness. I think some people think that maybe there's a timer on their driving behavior, or maybe they think it's interpolating the weaving of the vehicle, but in reality, they're being watched by their cars, which is a great thing, even though a lot of the speakers here are commenting that it's a little bit icky and paranoia-inducing, but I think that the fundamental direction is the right one, and in spite of the concerns being expressed by some consumers, it's here. It's already happened.
Sure. Who are the market leaders in this space, Roger? When you look at the automotive landscape, who leads the market right now with this?
So in-vehicle, see, that's a funny thing. Companies like Smart Eye and Tobii certainly stand out. Sure. But there's a whole host of companies, because many of them have just gotten into this activity fairly recently. Sure. And actually, unfortunately, several have already fallen by the wayside. Right. And many startups. So, like, I guess you could say some of those startups got started maybe a little bit too early. Right. But the value proposition of identifying, impairment, attention, heart health. Yes. The driver's conscious, not distracted, sure. and healthy, and then also detecting things left behind in the car. So it's a real panoply of applications, right. which has brought into play radar actually in the car as well, for a more comprehensive detection proposition, and it's setting the stage for a much deeper interaction with consumers and a much deeper engagement. And car makers are desperately in need of this, because as the industry electrifies, people will have less reason to interact with their dealers, interact with their cars. They just won't require as much service. Right. So car makers are going to need to be connected and paying more close attention to what's happening in the car, and so maybe they will be looking at the emotional experience their customers are having. Right.
How do new technologies, and we can just maybe use some banner terms, maybe AI or software-defined vehicles, how do these new technologies or these emerging technologies, how do you see them altering the driving experience?
Well, one speaker I thought captured it best, addressing this ick factor of driver monitoring by saying that maybe there's a way that it becomes educational or rewarding for the consumer.
Got it.
That it isn't like punitive, like you're a terrible driver. Your car isn't constantly pinging you. I remember my wife was, we briefly adopted State Farm's Drive Safe and Save.
Okay.
And it was just a plug-in OBD device.
Sure.
And it would beep in a very loud, harsh way if you accelerated harshly or you braked harshly or you did anything.
Sure.
And my wife said, it makes me feel like I'm a bad person. I told my wife at the time, well, honey, maybe there's something to pay attention. But the point is, we need to move beyond the harshness factor and to more of the helper factor.
Right.
And that this is actually helping me, because the big fear of this entire sector is people are going to turn this stuff off as soon as they have a bad experience.
Yes.
Which is what happens with a lot of new technology, like speech recognition. You have 2 bad experiences with the speech recognition, you don't use speech recognition anymore.
Right. What are some of the most unique things that you've seen either here at AutoSens or InCabin, or just in general in the industry right now? What are some of the coolest, most unique things that are kind of in your purview?
Well, Pneumo, which is buried way in the back over there, has a brainwave detection solution, which is really extraordinary and will help better interpret driver monitoring scores to determine what's going on in the customer's brain in a touchless fashion, not intrusive. And I think it's worth noting that Maureen from GM was talking about touchless EEG sensing as well. There's more high-speed connections coming into the car, so I think KD was talking about optical connectivity. You've got Valens talking about AFI. So we're going to be moving more data faster in the car to these points of interpretation, sensor fusion places. And so as we enhance and improve that sort of edge computing experience and are able to put the information together about what's happening in the cabin, automakers will be better able to craft a driving experience that's pleasing and, of course, safer.
Sure. Roger, I want to focus on 2 things in your bio here. So you're founder of StrategiaNow. Talk to me about the work that you do there. Let's say that I was a potential client. Why would I engage you? What kind of challenges would I have that would cause me to reach out to you?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Why would you reach out? So I'm an amplifier, I'm a networker, I'm a connector.
Sure.
And I do my best to look, over the horizon as to what's coming, and kind of cut through the, for lack of a better term, sort of BS or the conventional wisdoms that prevail in the industry. Oh, we can't do that, or we can't do that. Go there. And there's a lot of new tech and a lot of new thinking, and a lot of what I do when I'm amplifying messages, like in my blog on LinkedIn. 189,000 followers.
I'm one of them.
Thank you. Is trying to speak the truth that no one else is speaking, basically. And quite often, sometimes it almost seems obvious, some things, but to get automakers to move, they need to be reasoned with, but they also need to be bludgeoned, and they need to be scared, fear of missing out. And so I'm trying to bundle all those value propositions into one solution, which is StrategiaNow. So it's networking, it's amplification, it's marketing guidance and advice. A lot of people, companies reach out to me that are getting started. They don't know anything about the automotive industry. Not only do they not know who to call, they don't know what to say. They don't know how to tell their story. And there's a lot of things people don't understand about the industry. Connectivity, even though we've been doing connectivity for 30 years, car makers are still struggling to come to grips with connectivity and what that means. And a lot of consumers just want to use their phones in the car. And then people have this idea, I keep running across this all the time, that vehicle data is a $750 billion marketplace. I'd be the first person to say, yes, there is value in vehicle data, but it's not a $750 billion market. So you have to sort of refine your message and modify your understanding or your assumptions coming into the automotive industry. The other thing that's a challenge for anybody, because when someone comes to me, and they come to me quite often, I'm not really on the hunt for clients, they tend to find me, is someone says they want to get into the automotive industry, and my first question is typically, why? Because it's very painful. It can be years. Yes. It could be years before you have a proof of concept, or forget about start of production. Yeah. Years, and people don't always understand that the time it takes, and so I've tried to help on all of those fronts. And sometimes it's just connecting people. Like even at an event like this, you need to talk to this person. So bringing people together at an event like this can be helpful. Right. The second part of your bio I want to focus on, President of the Mobile Satellite Users Association. Tell us about that organization. So the MSUA, it says Users Association, but it really is it's service providers, resellers, and equipment manufacturers, and in the mobile satellite industry. Now, mobile satellite doesn't have quite the meaning that it had when we got started 33 years ago. Sure. So I'm thinking it might be better to call it the Multi-Orbit Satellite Users Association, because everybody's doing multi-orbit now. So you've got LEO satellites like Starlink, and then you have the GEOs like Viasat or Intelsat. But even those big operators are adding LEO and MEO satellites. But the bottom line is, the satellite standards for communications are merging with the 5G standards, so release 17. So you get what's called direct-to-device communications to your T-Mobile phone or your AT&T phone, and non-terrestrial network connectivity, which is, again, coming in release 17 of 5G standards, which mean it will be in cars. Now, in the beginning, it will be narrow band, low bandwidth applications, so SOS messages or text messages, but ultimately it will transition to streaming content. But the bottom line, right out of the blocks today, is that it's transforming the entire IoT industry, because it means I can track and be connected to mobile things anywhere at all times. I don't have dead zones, white zones anymore. So that changes the whole value proposition, and it also brings together the reality that in the world of satellite connectivity, you've got maritime, you've got trains, planes, in-flight connectivity. IFC is a big deal. You're increasingly going to be able to make phone calls and stream over your Wi-Fi in the airplane. Thanks to satellite connectivity. And of course it's coming to cars. And of course that will change that value proposition. And ubiquitous connectivity is especially important in the context of safety. Roger C. Lanctot, founder of StrategiaNow. From all of us here at AutoSens and InCabin, we want to thank you for being with us, sharing your expertise, your story, your knowledge, and your insights. Have a great rest of the event. Safe travels back home. And I look forward to being able to do this again sometime sooner rather than later. Thanks a lot, Carl. My pleasure. You're welcome. From the Huntington Place in downtown Detroit for AutoSens and InCabin USA 2025, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News Radio.